Hello everyone, welcome back to alkaline hydroxide 784. And today I will cover what happens when you get your paper 2 back from your teachers. And in other words, how you should look at your errors and how to move forward from after you look at your exam, I guess. So of course, right after doing the exam, you would have a certain idea of your time management, whether anything was left blank, or how much or how well you wrote your AQ. And when you receive the paper back with the marks, you can first get a general idea of where you lost the most marks, as in which section you lost marks in. And yeah, I will now just explain separately for each section how you might have lost marks or things like that. Okay, so let's move on to the SAQ. So the first thing that may have happened is that you left one or two questions blank. Well, that's pretty straightforward. It's just that you left it blank and therefore you didn't get the marks for the question. But the reason why they were blank either is because you didn't have time and you skipped these questions like I told you in the last video, and you didn't have time to go back to them, or you truly did not know the answer. Even if you have 5 minutes, you stare at the question and you really have no answer in your mind, not even a dupe one. And well, yeah, it happens sometimes. If it was one of the questions that was generally difficult for the cohort, or if it's like a 1 mark question, then don't fret over it too much. But every mark still does count. So during the exam, try to answer it. Even if you don't know the exact correct answer, just try to answer it somehow. So of course, don't waste too much time on answering the questions during that paper also. You can do it at the end, like you just answer it in the most sensible way you can think of. But yeah, that aside, if it's about time management and you just didn't have time, even though you wanted to go and answer it, at the end you didn't have time, well, either you just have a problem with answering the other questions as well and you took too much time to answer them, or you need more time practice and you're just slow. It makes sense. Because sometimes when you do it at your home or something like that, you may feel more comfortable and you may be able to, and you may not even realize how much time you spend doing the questions. But once you're at the exam, you have to really rush through it and make sure to finish it properly within the set timing, in a sense. That's why time practice is actually quite important. You should replicate exam conditions as much as you can. So the next reason why you might have lost marks in your SAQ is if your answer is wrong for the question, even though you thought you wrote the correct answer, like your points are wrong. Um, well, this is now once again, if a lot of other people made the same mistake, then you don't have to really be so worried about it. Just learn the mistake, find out why you got it wrong, and yeah, do listen to how the question is supposed to be approached. Maybe you identified it wrongly, or you used the wrong approach on the question, and that can happen sometimes. So knowing how the question works can help you when you see a similar question with different words next time. So yeah, I mean, there's nothing much to say about it. If you really don't understand why the correct answer is the correct answer, please do approach your teachers. They will help you explain the answer. Or if you want, you can also ask your classmates who got the question correct. Um, but actually, the reason why people can get these questions wrong is that for example, there's two sentences back to back, and they maybe thought the first sentence was the right answer, but it was actually the second sentence. Even though they are talking about the same point, the point may be slightly different in each of the sentences, and using the wrong one may lead to the wrong answer. So you should be careful when you're reading the question as well as the passage. Okay, so the third way you might have missed it out is if you used the wrong words or you missed out certain keywords. Okay, so this could be a case of over paraphrasing, well, just take note of that and then don't overdo it next time. Or if you wrongly paraphrased it, just learn how to actually paraphrase the word, learn from the mistake, and try not to make the same mistake again for that kind of word, like a specific word in the sense. At least you'll get to learn new vocabulary this way. Sometimes you don't know just how many different words could be used to substitute for a certain word. And learning, this is the easiest way to find out that you can actually use like 10 different words for this same word and you didn't think of any of those words when you're writing an exam. It makes you feel stupid, but you still learn from it. Okay, so for the next section, which is the summary section. So once again, I will point out each of the ways you might have messed up and tell you why, give an explanation on what you should do. So the first one would be if you didn't put enough points. So either you were too strict on your point selection and you didn't actually write enough points and you didn't even have enough words, like you didn't really use up all the enough, like the word limit in the sense. You didn't make use of it comprehensively in a sense. Or if you didn't read the question properly, like maybe it said paragraph 4 to 9, but you decided you read it as paragraph 4 to 8 and you missed out paragraph 9. Brilliant. Careless mistake. But if it's, yeah, so in that case you just need to be a bit more careful about it next time. If you, as you're writing it, you should probably try to figure out how many points you have. Even if you cannot tell which exactly is a point, try to figure out whether you have enough or not, in the sense enough. You should have that intuition to see whether there's enough points. So just take note of it next time. But the other reason why you may not have enough points is that you ran out of words and you had to cancel out a lot of points at the end. And that would be a different problem, which is that you either use the longer phrase card too many times, like you kept using longer phrases to so-called paraphrase your points, which is like the opposite of doing a summary. You're making it longer. Makes no sense. Or you didn't remove your extra information like the examples or the description, like that stuff that's not directly relevant to the point. So in that case, you should try to learn how to actually paraphrase it and how to do it in a better way, and from what your teacher explains, and also learn how to, and for the extra information, it will be covered in the subsequent stuff like I'm gonna say. Okay, so for the paraphrasing wrongly, this is actually the second mistake people may do, which is actually the most common mistake. People always end up paraphrasing something wrongly. I did that a lot. So if you paraphrased it wrongly, despite thinking that that word might have worked or something, but it was still wrong, once again, just look at the correct paraphrasing, learn from it. And actually, there's another thing that you need to take note of. Sometimes the word may be correct in the sense of the thesaurus, you will get that word, but in terms of the context, it doesn't make sense, because each passage has a certain context to it, and in that context, certain words make more sense than others. And if you understand what I mean, then good. Just take note of the context when you paraphrase your words next time, as that actually matters in which words you choose, right? For example, if this word has 10 other words that are synonyms in the sense, only 5 of them may make sense in this context, then you cannot use the other 5 words. Even if they're synonyms, you can use them. So do take note of the context. And the third mistake is the adding too much extra information. This could be even if you had enough points, but maybe some of the points were wrong and then you ended up adding too much extra information and they weren't exactly points to begin with, so you basically wasted your space. So if you don't want to add extra information and you want to put actual points, first of all, be careful and look out for the commas and dashes next time. But if that's not enough, you can also try to see how the paragraph is written, the sentence is written. You can kind of tell if you've written a you've written paper 1 before, you should know how people write essays, or like this. It's the same logic as how you use what you use for writing your own essay. So use that logic and then try to find out the examples summary. And if you missed out some points accidentally, then it's okay, just take note of what points they are, and try to be more careful about it next time. Okay, so finally we move on to the AQ. So for the actually for each section I wrote it as 3 so-called mistakes each. For the AQ, how I wrote it is, the first one would be for the 4-pointer, which many of us would have gotten at least once, because, and the main reason is because we ran out of time. Let's face it, time management is key. And yeah, so the usual reason is because you ran out of time and you only wrote 1 point, or maybe you wrote 2 points, but the second one is just really terribly rushed through, and you had no choice but to just rush through it. And in this case, time management is key. So when you get your thing back, look at the feedback carefully and then see how to improve. If it really is time management, then try your best to save time in the previous sections so that you have more time for this. Or if you actually had enough time but you still waste a lot of time, then just practice this thing more, practice the AQ more, in the sense, for your time practice. So yeah, you should at least have 35 minutes to do the AQ. I think that's a good amount of time to do it. If you have that much time, then you won't be rushing through it. If you have 30 minutes, it's okay, but if you have less than that, then uh, unless you're a really fast thinker and fast writer, you would feel very rushed through when you write your points, and you may not flesh them out properly. So please do ensure you have enough time for your AQ. So the second mistake would be something like lack of well-explained paragraphs. So you may be getting more than 4 points, but your paragraphs are still lacking the explanation, right? Good explanation in the sense. And in this case, it could be something to do with rushing as again, and but otherwise it can be improved with practice. Remember to think about how you do it in your essay, like the point, the explanation, the example. If you need to explain the example, you can do that, and then at the end you have to put a link. And that's the basic way to do the paragraph, I guess. Like, this is the most basic way of doing it. Have the point, like whether you agree, disagree, whatever, with the point the author makes. Then the explanation why you feel that it doesn't apply to Singapore, or it applies to Singapore, and how it does. Then the example is how it does, how it applies, in the sense to who specifically to apply and things like that. And after that, you can give more explanation to say that, oh, because of this example proves that this actually applies or it doesn't apply to Singapore. And at the end you put a link back, therefore I blah 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 agree or disagree or whatever with the author's point. Okay, so yeah, that's the second one. So the third one isn't really a mistake, but more of the very over ambitious people who want a 10. I do not know what a 10 looks like, I'm sorry. I don't know what a answer worthy of 10 marks looks like, unfortunately. Unless, I doubt that my A-level answer was that good either. No. But the best way I can I can help you is to just tell you how to do even better arguments. So in order to do that, remember to use the nuance. Like, in other words, you can reference certain groups of people instead of saying most of the Singaporeans. You can say, oh, the youths or the elderly, blah blah blah. Or you can use certain situations. I always keep talking about certain groups of people, but situations may also make sense. Like, in which situation will they do this, which situation will they not, or other nuances that you can think of, like in the past versus today, or anything else that comes to your mind. So, and also balance. Why the agree isn't a completely agree, because as I told you in the previous video, it's better if you say mostly instead of completely agree. For example, you need to give exceptions, like where it doesn't apply in the sense, even if you say it applies to most Singaporeans, that doesn't really give the full picture. You must say why it only applies to most but not all. Who are these exceptions? Like for maybe you're the exception, you can say, oh, I do something else instead of these, unlike these people. Or you can say maybe this very small minority of people actually do something different from the majority of the people. So you must give an actual example that supports the exception, and also give a, you can explain it if you want to make it even more interesting and worthwhile to read in the sense. So yeah, that's for the three sections. So overall, if the first thing to take note is if you're weak in one of the three sections, to focus more on that area, but at the same time don't just neglect the other two areas, because I mean, by right, paper two isn't something that you really super need to study for. But oh wait, actually I did say you're supposed to study for it instead of strategize, but okay, never mind. I also confused myself. But if you are able to, if you understand how to do it, then you don't need to really study for it until near the exam. And yeah, just make sure to do the practices that you get in class. I think they're pretty sufficient for most of the schools at least. But if it's not sufficient, then go get your own practices as well. And if your problem instead is time management, then one, you can either do time practice if that helps you, or two, if maybe your strategy wasn't good, like you thought maybe you can do this section in this much time, but you really struggled to do it, or you just made you very stressed out, then strategize it better and do it in a better way next time so that you can finish everything on time. So yeah, of course, papers, like the process of doing exams is really just about constantly improving your strategies, your methods, and also experimenting. Sometimes it isn't really an improvement, but it's more of trying new things. But in the final exam, you must have your general, the best method that you can think of by the time you have A levels. So that you can try your best method during A levels and do your best work in a sense. And yeah, I think that's about it. As you, if you haven't noticed already, this is the last episode in the series, the GP strategy series. So I will be going overseas on 25th June. So if if I don't post videos on any particular week until 15th July, please don't be angry at me. But what I'm planning to do is to record things beforehand and then just publish it according to schedule. So after this series, look forward to a special video on Delph. I think I would have received my Delph results by then, but I may not be talking about my results unless I add it in at the end or something. So I so after the Delph video, I will start a new series for maths, which I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do specifically. So once I figure it out, I will do a new series for that. And as with the previous series on the chem practical, I think no one asked questions for that. But if you do have any questions on GP in general, feel free to ask me in the comments below or in Reddit. And yeah, I think that's about it. I hope you found this series useful in some way or the other. Even if you just like listening to me, you can just listen to me for no reason. But yeah, if you like this video and the other videos, please do press the like button, share this with your friends, and subscribe to the channel for more content like this, I guess. Um, I think that's about it, I guess. Thank you and bye!